It's been 254 days since Kevin Durant has played an NBA game, but yesterday we got this footage of KD knocking down multiple long-distance shots during a workout. Perk, there was a point during last season people felt KD had elevated to best player on the planet. Do you think he'll be able to get back to that level?
Absolutely. One thing about Kevin Durant is he don't care about anything but playing basketball. He don't care about nothing about all the extracurricular activities outside of basketball.
He's got his own whole TV show.
He don't care about that. He just want to hoop. He just want to hoop.
But I think you can want to hoop also.
It's killing him not to be out there right now.
But I would say it's 254 days since Perk was worried about him playing on that.
That's true.
So,
as a true friend.
So KD, take it easy, don't rush it.
That's
we'll be
true.
glad to have you when you get back.
Absolutely. In the meantime, it's a very good TV show. It's on ESPN Plus, The Boardroom. Welcome to the Jump. I'm Rachel Nichols, along the host of the Hoop Collective podcast. Also a very good podcast, Brian Windhorst, and NBA champ Kendrick Perkins. We live in a little bit of Perk's glory days later. Coming up, Woj reporting Reggie Jackson is expected to clear waivers and sign with the Clippers. Does that move actually hurt the Lakers more than it helps the Clippers? We'll dig into that. Stick around to find out. First, though, we start today's show in Cleveland, where the Cavaliers are moving on to their fourth head coach in less than a year and a half. According to Woj, John Beilein out as the head coach of the Cavs after less than one season. The franchise promoting associate head coach J.B. Bickerstaff to become the full-time coach. Under Beilein, the Cavs posted a record of 14-40 this season, second worst in the league. Back in a January team meeting, of course, was the headline incident, Beilein referring to his players as, quote, no longer playing as a bunch of thugs. He later apologized, tried to walk it back, saying he meant, quote, slugs, not thugs. Apparently didn't watch with some of the players, though, because according to The Athletic, quote, multiple players began playing songs that included the word thug whenever Beilein was within earshot, sources said. Bone Thugs and Harmony's Thuggish Ruggish Bone and Tupac's Thug's Mansion among them. The team boarded the bus a few days after the incident. One player was intentionally playing Trick Daddy's I'm a Thug with Beilein a few feet away. Quote, the worst part to me was not owning it, not owning what he said, one player told The Athletic. So, Brian, the circus continues. What is the biggest issue facing the Cavs right now?
Well, Rachel, I hate to go back to the Kyrie Irving trade. I know it's one of your favorites.
You know how I feel about that trade?
I didn't understand that trade at the time. I didn't understand.
Really? Because Brian, unfortunately, has had to hear me.
And I don't want to relitigate it.
2.5 years saying they didn't have to trade him. They didn't have to trade him for that. Continue.
I didn't understand why they extended Kevin Love at $120 million after LeBron
You
left.
do know why that happened.
When I would have traded him if I was there. I didn't understand the John Beilein hire, to be honest with you. I'm on the fence about understanding the drafting of Darius Garland with Colin Sexton on the roster, but I'll wait on that because he's a rookie coming off a knee injury. I'll just wait. This is Colin Sexton's fourth coach. I did not understand them trading for Andre Drummond. I think they've done some small things as an organization. They've done some deals and some small moves, but a lot of their big moves over the last 2-3 years, I just frankly haven't understood. And this is another one. I didn't understand this hire. And I guess I give him credit because this was sort of initiated by John Beilein, from what I understand, and he wanted to leave. I guess I respect him saying, this isn't the job for me, I'm going to get out right now so that they can move on. But clearly, this was a flaw from the start. This was almost certainly never going to work. I don't think Kevin Love and the way he approached the season has helped him. But even if that was different, even if Kevin Love was gone, I'm not sure this would have worked.
Well, B, you shouldn't understand because I don't understand. I'm pretty sure Rachel don't understand. I'm pretty sure the world don't understand. But I'm not going to blame the Cavs front office for this. I'm going to address the elephant in the room, and that's Dan Gilbert. He makes horrible decisions. He's too hands-on when it comes down to the Cavaliers. Every decision that he puts his stamp on, it fails. He's too hands-on. When you look at the great organizations or the good organizations that's in the league, the Spurs, the Celtics, even the Oklahoma City Thunder, the Houston Rockets, the owners put these GMs in position to do their jobs and they fall back. Dan Gilbert is hands-on. We all know this. We know at one point that they was about to trade Kyrie Irving in the 3-team deal for Paul George and probably acquire back Eric Bledsoe when David Griffin was there. He didn't want to give Griff his contract extension. Then all of a sudden, Griff walks. He hired Kobe Altman, who I like a lot. And then all of a sudden you trade Kyrie for IT and Jay Crowder and Ante Zizi. And
The draft
there
pick.
you
You
go.
traded him for the draft pick.
And every time,
How'd that draft pick turn out?
that's what I'm saying. Every time you go, and by the way, he had a say in the draft pick. Like,
Yeah, that's
And
right.
by the way, that's not a knock on the player that was drafted, but that draft pick was treated like it was a first round. It was a number 1 or number 2 draft pick, and it ended up being number 8. So you're going to get a number 8 draftee as opposed to a number 1 or 2 draftee, and you treated it like a number 1 or 2 draftee. I don't know, Perk. It is hard for me to tell where the division is between ownership and the front office. I do know everything you started with from the Kyrie trade on is, as Perk pointed out, after David Griffin left. And so somebody has the title of general manager, right? Kobe Altman has that title. So I'm going to give him the respect of saying that he makes some of his own decisions and is not just a mouthpiece for Dan Gilbert. So some of this is on his account. Some of it is on Dan Gilbert's account. There's just no question. 4 coaches in a year and a half? I mean, that is not
It's
that
been
is not a
16. It's
steady
been
hand.
16 years in the NBA since we've seen a team change coaches mid-season in back-to-back years. So this is, even by the NBA standards of the revolving door at head coach, this is abnormal.
This is, and look, part of the reason I point out that pick and I talk about the Kyrie trade is one of the big points of that trade was, hey, we're preparing because we think LeBron James is going to leave again, and we don't want to end up in the same position we were last time, and we are not going to have a full rebuild.
But
This appears to be a
I do
rebuild,
think
and I'm not even sure
the
which
thing
direction
that
it's
has happened
going.
with Dan Gilbert is since he bought the team, he has always wanted out-of-the-box coaching candidates. He tried to hire John Calipari. He tried to hire Larry Brown. He tried to hire Bill Self. He hired David Blatt. He tried to hire Tom Izzo. Not Larry Brown. Tried to hire Tom Izzo. Did hire David Blatt. That didn't work out. Then he hired John Beilein. He finally got his college coach in John Beilein. He has tried to be outside the box, and for some things, outside the box is great.
Right.
But for the Cavs coaching, outside the box has not worked in Dan Gilbert's tenure.
Well, I do want to point out that J.B. Bickerstaff is a coach that players on that team have talked about really liking. In fact, some of the reporting earlier in the year was they were going to J.B. instead of John Beilein. So maybe now, as the head coach, he will be more empowered. Bickerstaff took over the Rockets when Kevin McHale was fired. Bickerstaff took over the Grizzlies when David Fizdale was fired. Now he's taking over the Cavs when John Beilein is parting ways. I thought Jason Concepcion at The Ringer had a great comment this morning. Is this like an Angela Lansbury Murder, She Wrote situation? JB, sniffing the
I'm sure
arsenic
this isn't
here
the way
and there.
JB wanted his coaching
No, it
career
is
to
not,
go.
and I'm joking, of course. I mean, look, it's interesting when a coach takes double digits in the millions, a loss, right? Didn't he walk away from $12 million?
That's what it sounds like.
To not be a part of the organization anymore? That is a statement, and obviously the Cavaliers would like to go up from here because they are. Let's talk about Reggie Jackson. He agreed to a buyout with the Pistons. Woj reporting he is planning on joining the Clippers once he clears waivers. Jackson, 29 years old, averaging 14.9 points, 5.1 assists, 14 games this season after missing significant time at the beginning of the season with a back injury. So, Brian, the Lakers also wanted Jackson to bolster their lack of backcourt scoring depth. This is kind of interesting. We've been talking for months now about the Lakers and Clippers trying to keep away with each other as much as just acquiring guys. Does it hurt the Lakers more than it helps the Clippers, or does it help the Clippers more?
This is a great question. I don't know if we're going to have an answer right away. Reggie Jackson is a guy that in the past has not been comfortable being a backup. And this reason this buyout took some time, he had to fully vet this and fully understand what his role was going to be with the Clippers. That said, the one area where the Clippers, even though they're super deep, they don't have a lot of creators. They have tremendous talent on their roster, but they kind of leaned heavily on the few guys that they could start the offense. So I do think there's a role for him, especially with Patrick Beverley suffering a series of injuries this year. But the thing with the Lakers, Perk, the Lakers are in need of a point guard. One of the things that's been happening with them, LeBron has been spectacular at point guard this year, but when he leaves the court, their offense goes right into the ground. And that's one of the reasons why they've been searching. That's why they went after Darren Collison. They were interested here.
There's a target there. I mean, that list there are all people that the Lakers were interested in, and the Clippers got another one.
Yeah, I mean, we are in an era where it's LA versus LA here. And we saw it in the buyout market. We're going to see it again this summer because some of the guys that they're going to go after with the exceptions, mid-level exception stuff, are going to be the same guy. It's an amazing moment, and it's the reason why they paid all of those draft picks for Paul George. Because it wasn't just losing Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, it was losing potentially Kawhi Leonard to the Lakers.
Yes.
And the Clippers are only going to, now that they've quadrupled down on that, they're only going to go farther and farther and farther. There are some guys out there that I do think could help the Lakers a little bit. Tyler Johnson being one of them. You know, Maurice Harkless is a guy with the Knicks who, if he were to get a buyout, they would be interested in him. I don't know if he's going to get bought out. It's not over for the Lakers yet. Also, Deion Waiters. But they haven't been able to get their first, second, or third choice here.
I mean, I'm not a fan of it, and here's why. Because
You're not a fan of which? Of the Clippers picking up Reggie?
No, I'm not. And I'm not a fan of Reggie choosing the Clippers for the simple fact that they're deep. Reggie is 29 years old. And, going into this situation, yeah, they could tell you, hey, you're going to come in and play X amount of minutes, and when you get there, something may change. And my thing is with Reggie is maybe if he goes to the Lakers, you knew for sure he's going to play 20 to 25 minutes. The Clippers have a lot of firepower, and I don't know if this is a great fit for Reggie. I understand he's besties with Paul George, and I understand that they wanted to team up together, but if I'm Reggie and I'm 29 years old and I'm still in my prime, I might consider going to the Lakers because I know the minutes are going to be there. They already have Lou Will. They have, Pat Bev. They have all these scores and all this talent. I just don't see where Reggie is fitting in there. And the biggest word to me that comes to mind for the Clippers is sacrifice. Are they going to be able to sacrifice? And that's going to be huge.
Yeah, well, coming from Detroit the last few years, it's possible that he just said, I think this team's going to win the title, and I'm betting on that one. I don't know. We'll have to find out, see where they go. All right, coming up, I go one-on-one with rookie phenom Ja Morant. Wait till you hear what his plans are for the Grizzlies this season. Stick around for that. First, though, it's time for our distant replay from this date, 1998, Barkley to Drexler. This is good.
I would take that personally. I know it.
No. Look at Big Chuck.
He wanted it back. He was following it.
That was Clutch City right there. That was the fun times in Houston.
Look, now watch. He keeps running. He wants it back.
Right?
Hey, Brian, Rachel, I know I was doing
I got
that
this.
in high school, right there behind the back passes.
Uh-huh. We did it first.